Badass business owners, welcome to another episode of the Local Small Business Coach Podcast, where each episode we work on getting you to $100,000 in take-home pay. So if you're all ready to boost your profits, increase your sales, improve your processes, and develop stronger teams so you can stop living job to job, then let's dive in. Hey, badass business owners, welcome back to the show. I'm going to be honest with you. This is my third attempt at this particular podcast episode, and it's on the heels of me doing something crazy, which is I tried to record the YouTube video for this exact topic beforehand. And I ran into all kinds of issues when I was doing it. Even though I had read the script 50 million times when I'm going to do it and then line up what I want to say with the PowerPoint presentation that I kind of put together to help teach this, it's so funny because when you're doing it in your head, it sounds one way. And then when you're trying to do it, and I like to wing it, I like to just talk. But it's a little bit more difficult to do that when you're doing numbers because you want to make sure that the numbers line up with the timing of how they're going to show up on the video. Anyways, long story short, so I started getting in my head, I started second guessing everything and whatnot, and I'm like, but I need to get used to it because one of the commitments that I'm making to you guys is that I'm going to do more information on the profitability and numbers and making them easier for you to understand so that way you can make more profit. Because I understand that when I talk about it here on the podcast, some of you guys take to it like a duck to water. You completely understand. You can visualize the numbers. You can totally get it. And for some of you, you're more visual learners, and having that video backup actually helps you retain the information or something that you can go back to and refresh your memory kind of a thing. So what I'm going to continue to do through the course of the year is produce these videos that help you understand your numbers a lot better. Okay. And with that, I'm going to try to do a corresponding podcast to go with it so you can kind of have like a companion piece to each other. But I need you to bear with me when I do these kinds of episodes because I know most of you guys are working or multitasking and numbers don't always necessarily jive. So, but if anything, I still want you to make sure that you listen to it because some of it will seep in through osmosis. And when you go to watch the video or you watch it somewhere else with somebody else, you'll have a basic understanding. And if you get nothing else but one aha moment out of the entire thing, then it's worth it to me. And I think I know what you're going to get as your aha moment takeaway from this particular one. And I'm going to go ahead and jump right in because today what we're going to talk about is we're going to talk about markup versus margin. And for some of you, it's going to mean a much bigger thing than others. It's very important, first off, before I go on, that every single person, every single business owner, no matter who you are, what you do, what you sell, what services you provide, what products you survive, you always need to know what your margin percentage is on every single product or service that you sell. I have said this a million times. The problem is most of you guys know what your markup is on every item that you sell, but you don't necessarily know the margin percentage of what that is. And it's important that you know. So I'm going to use two different examples through the course of this. One of them is for people that tend to do bids, and then others for people that have smaller services or products that they sell. So there'll be something in here for everybody. Just hang with me and just substitute the numbers for your numbers. It's still going to be the same thing. Now, here's the thing. Markup is something that a lot of people are familiar with. So, for example, let's just say you go out to do a bid and you bid the job and you notice that for all of the costs that you need to be able to do that, it's going to be about $200. And that's going to include the products. That's going to include any labor you must hire, any equipment you need to rent, whatever the case may be. Your cost of goods sold, the amount it's going to cost to do that is $200. Well, you know that you want to mark that up $200. You want to double your money. So you say, okay, my bid is $400 because it's going to be $200 in cost and $200 in profit. So I'm going to bid $400. You get excited. You've got the bid and you're like, oh my gosh, I just doubled my money and I made 100%. Now, here's the thing. While that is a true statement, you did double your money and you did make 100%. Does that mean that your margin was 100%? And this is where people get screwed up. And the answer is no, because markup is figured out differently than margin percentages. The two percentages are completely different, even though they both are referring to the same amount of money that is made off of a product or service that is sold. So let's kind of look at this a little bit more. Okay. In this particular case, if we were to use percentages from dollars, okay, so markup, we tend to talk in dollar amounts. Margin, we talk in percentages. Why do we talk in percentages? Think about your profit and loss statement. Your P&L is done in percentages, right? Everything on there it'll say that you did X amount and it is what percentage, because it's taking what that item is divided by the total sales of what it was. So when you think about your costs of goods sold, let's just say when you add up all of your costs, right, that's going to equal a number on your P&L. And then you take all those costs divided by all of your sales, which is how you come up that your product costs run you 40%, let's just say, okay? That every time you do jobs, on average, it's going to run you about 40% of every sale, or 50% of every sale goes to product costs. So your P&L is done off of percentages. So your margin is that same number in percentages. So if we know we have a markup of $200, we need to know now of that $200, what percentage is that of our sales. So markup percentages are figured out differently. Markups are figured out profit divided by costs. So in our particular example, we had $200 of profit divided by $200 in costs, we equals 100%, which we already knew, right? But if we were to look at it from a margin standpoint and using sales in our calculation, we have $200 in profit divided by $400 in sales. Remember, our total was $400 in sales. $200 in profit divided by $400 in sales actually is only 50%. Okay, so while your markup was 100%, your actual margin, profit margin, was 50% because it's a percentage of the total revenue. And that's important, and I'm going to share with you why that is. Because we know our P&L is based off of total sales, and we know that we have a certain way that flows, right? Because it starts off with our sales, we deduct our product costs, and then we turn around and we have what's called our gross margin, right? And then from there, we deduct all of our expenses, and then after we deduct our expenses, we are left with what our net profit is. Everybody should be familiar with that based off of your P&L. So if we have let's go back to our product here. Let's just say it's the only thing we sell all year round. All right. So we have a $400 worth of sales minus 50% of that $400 automatically goes to product costs. That leaves us 50% gross margin. From that, we know we need to deduct our expenses. Let's just say our expenses always run 20%. Okay. So we need an additional 20% off of that 50%, because we have to pay our expenses, and that leaves us with 30% margin. And at the end, we know that that's the profit that we're making, is that 30%. Don't get hung up. Yes, we still have taxes to pay. We have other things to pay, but just put that aside for the moment, okay? We're just going to use the core things of sales, of costs, and of expenses, okay, to get to our net. Now, knowing this, and we go back to our bid, right? But the problem is we need to make 40% bottom line and not 30% bottom line. So once again, we do the bid, and at the end of the day, we still don't have enough profits to be able to hit everything that we need to hit. We're not making enough money. We need to make more money. In order to make more money, you got to do one of several things, right? You have to either decrease your expenses, because we know that's a big chunk. You need to decrease your costs, which is another biggest chunk. But there's also a third part of that equation, which is we need to increase top line sales while maintaining those other items. Hopefully we're always reducing everything, but let's just say we maintain those. Well, if you needed to make 40% bottom line, the problem that you've got is you still have the same 20% expenses, right? So let's work backwards for a second. If you can hang with me, if you know you need to make 40% at the end of the day, and you've got 20% of your of expenses, right? So we have the 40% we need to make, plus add on top of that the 20 in expenses. Now we're up to 60%, which means our product costs, using these same numbers, only leaves us 40% left for those for the costs. Well, if we know that we can only have 40% of product costs, then we need to try to figure out what's the better way to bid that thing. And here's where the confusion gets, because I probably have already lost some of you. Well, if you remember our example was we bid that thing $200 cost, $200 profit, and it gave us $400. We already figured out that the margin on that was 50%, right? Well, the problem is we need it to be 60%, not 50%. We need it to be 60% because we need it to be able to give us our 40% bottom line profit plus the 20% of expenses, because we already know 40% is automatically going to cost. So we have to work it the other way around. And I'm going to, once again, you watch the video. I'm going to try to get it uploaded and put into the show notes. But at the end of the day, if we know we need to have 40% of profitability plus 20% of expenses, we know we need 60% left over. So 40% of our bid goes to cost, 60% goes to profits. So the reality is we need to figure it the other way around. And I'm not going to do the math here, but I'm just going to cut to the bottom line. What if I told you that bid, in order to be able to make those numbers work, to get to the 40% bottom line that you need versus a 30% bottom line, the bid actually should have been for $500 and not for $400. That's a $100 difference in that bid. It's 25% off of what somebody needed to be able to make, because a $100 difference divided by 400 that you actually got. So what's happening is a lot of people are underbidding. Matter of fact, if you talk to a lot of people that do bids, what they find out is that they were bidding too low. And if you go to people that have been doing a job for 2, 3, 4 years, one of the things, if you ask them if you could go back in time and do something different, what would you do? And they will tell you almost always that they wish they would have bid differently, that they bid higher. And the reason is they never learned the math. And it wasn't until years of going through this that they realized that they just weren't making the amount of money that they thought. And the reason is they get hung up on that whole markup stuff versus the margin piece of the entire equation. So like I said, you don't have to try to remember every number that I've been telling you on this, but just know that it's there. Same thing, it works on smaller ones. I'll just go through it really quick. For example, let's just say you have a product that you sell for $10. You have costs of $6 and you sell it for $4. Here's where the difference comes in. If you look at it from a markup standpoint, you think, oh, wow, I made $4. The reality is you had a markup of 66%, which sounds really good, right? But your margin is you're going to take, now it's going to be different, right? Because when you did your markup, you took the $4 of profit divided by the cost, right? Because markup is profit divided by the cost. So 4 divided by 6 is 66%. Whereas if we're looking at it from a margin standpoint, we're looking at the profit divided by the sales. So the $4 divided by the sales of $10 gave you the 40%. And that's where you kind of land there. What you want to do is you want to start figuring out what is the margin off of everything that you do. And it's really easy if you can just get down those two particular mathematical things: profit divided by cost versus profit divided by sales. Matter of fact, I could care less if you ever use the markup percentage. Okay. You may know the dollar amount, but what I care about is that you throw all of that out and you just realize that you need to know the margin percentage on everything that you do, which is where you take the profit you make divided by the sales you get. That's going to tell you your percentage, because at the end of the day, that is what is in your profit and loss statement. Listen, I know that I just threw a lot at you guys. And if you have any nugget, remember earlier I said if you walk away with one nugget and one nugget only, it is this: know your margin percentages. Know your margin is your profit made on that product divided by the sales of that product. That's going to tell you your margin. That's going to tell you what you start off with before you deduct any of your expenses. So if you go and you take any product or service that you have and you figure out that, hey, it's a 70% margin, that sounds great, but what are your expenses that go with that? Then you take those off, and that leaves you the rest of that percentage. And from that percentage, you just keep deducting until you get to your bottom line. Because don't forget, you still have other things that are going to come out of there. So you want to make sure that you know that. Like I said, there's times when people think they're making so much money on something and they're really not when they actually look at it. So by you give yourself a lot of power if you know what your margin is on everything. So Sorry, I'm saying a lot of so's for some reason. Anyways, I'm going to go ahead and edit this video. Is it going to be perfect? No. Is it going to be enough to be able to get you to understand this and give you a visual of what we're talking about today? Absolutely. I'm going to continue making little videos. I'm going to continue to do these podcast episodes that are going to help you out to be able to understand your numbers better. And I'm going to try to sync them together. So every time I create a video, I'll do the podcast episode to go along with it. So this way you can kind of pull them together and you have that link automatically. I'm actually going to really try to beef up the YouTube piece of all of this, because this way you can not only hear the podcast over there, but now you can actually see more videos. I've done some in the past. They weren't that great. They were kind of hit and miss, but I'm going to really try to beef that up and try to create several different videos over the course of this next year. It's really what I want to do, is try to help give you that visual. And by the way, if you have any ideas of videos that you would like to see, I'm trying to keep them between 5-10 minutes if possible, and to have just little spurts of giving you information on different aspects of your numbers to help you better understand your numbers. Please make sure to reach out to me. You can shoot me an email at tammy@localsmallbusinesscoach.com. Inside the show notes, there are different ways to get a hold of me. I'd love to hear from you. When you watch the videos, continue to add them. Feedback, just give me the feedback. I'll try to work on them to try to create those. Don't know how long it's going to take to do all the different ones, because obviously my list is already long from the things I've come up with. I've asked in the Facebook group. People have given me some great ideas, and we'll continue to go through all of that. And by the way, don't forget that I do offer coaching. So if it's something that you want to look at your numbers and kind of have a better understanding looking at them, you can reach out to me once again, still reach out to me at Tammy@localsmallbusinesscoach. One of the things we can do is we can look at the different offer strategy packages and coaching packages that I have, and see if one of them will work with you to help you out. And you can always ask questions. But with that, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this one up. I know I probably hurt some of your brains by going over numbers, but I'm going to go work on that video to be able to get that done as well. So that way you have it. And if you have a YouTube channel, you like to look at YouTube, which I'm sure almost all of you do, because you guys look up things all of the time. Don't forget to subscribe to that channel. It's going to be, you can get to it one of two ways: localsmallbusinesscoach.tv or training for local small business owners. .tv. It should take you right there. It'll be in the show notes as well. And like I said, some of the older videos kind of hit and miss, but I'm going to really start this series. And if you want them automatically dropped into your email, you want to make sure that you subscribe to that. All right. With that, I'm going to go ahead and get out of here, because I know I'm hurting your brains, and my brain hurts because I've been doing this for the last couple of hours, trying to work between the video and this podcast, and trying to help people see something that I can't. Normally I'm like a writer. Like I'll sit in front of you and I'll like write out this stuff, and we have our aha moments together and all that fun. So trying to figure out how to convert that into that same experience for you guys. I'm on a mission to make that better and better and better, because I really want to help you guys out with that. Now I think I read the quote. Once again, if I didn't, look for companies with higher profit margins by Warren Buffett, because at the end of the day, he knows that the profitability of that company really comes down to how much money that they make. It's not about how much you sell, it's about how much you keep. So it's really important that we help all of you guys expand that and become better at keeping more of your money. All right, I think I said everything I wanted to say. I'm sure if I forgot something, I apologize. All right, with that, I am out of here. I'm actually going to have 2 this week, because I've got another idea I wanted to talk about. All right, I'll talk to you on the next episode. Bye for now. Hey, badass business owner, before you go, are you sick and tired of working so many hours and still not being able to grow your business? Are you ready to start earning the income you deserve for the work you are doing? Do you have so many ideas and you just don't know where to start? Well, maybe you need a business coach. And guess what? I just happen to know one. Yeah, me. We can do a one-time strategy session, or we can set up a 6-week coaching plan. If you would like to learn more about this, just click on the link in the show notes or go to localsmallbusinesscoach.com/work-with-me. You can take a quick survey so I can learn a little bit more about your business, and then we can set up your free consultation call. Remember, I'm here to help. You do not have to do this alone.